Hi, and very good day to you. I hope you are doing fine. And it has been such a long time since I posted a video in this channel, and I thought, why not now? Like it's been quite some time, and I have always wanted to do this particular topic. This is one of my first discussions that I presented with the live audience. So I wanted to share it also to my share it in the YouTube channel so that it might be useful to uh, quite a bunch of people. And please do share your comments if you like the talk. So so this talk is about the answering the question that can the average person pursue excellence? It's an interesting question because like there aren't much grades everywhere because most of us might stick very close to the average as an average person. I was an average person. It's a constant process of evolving from being an average person to an excellent to pursue excellence. So this is I'm just sharing my ideas or my thoughts regarding the process. And if it helps you, please, I think it's great. And if you also have some comments regarding the ideas I'm presenting, please do share it in the comment section. So let me start. Can the average pursue excellence? So let me start with the definition as to who are the averages. Averages. What are we talking about? Who are the set of people we are talking about? So an average person, I think I'll loosely define, uh, can have great ideas, and the person can have a great enthusiasm, but the person lacks in understanding how time works. So the person can have great ideas, the person can have great enthusiasm to execute the ideas, but there is always a poor understanding of how time works, and that is what is um preventing them from pursuing excellence. So I'm going to dwell on this. So basically, what are we trying to do is that so we do have two different circles, which means that the first thing is the set of uh, things that I want to do over here, and then I have another set of things that actually uh, uh, what I do actually. So you have a set of things that fall into the question that what I want to do. And you also have the second set that is what I actually do. So the question, if you try to do this, I mean, try to ask this question and draw it into a map and check if they overlap. So that is an interesting task to do. So, in a very common sense, what I would define the pursuit of excellence is that to merge both of these circles, to create a maximum overlap between both of these circles, is what is pursuit of excellence. Which means that I'm thinking of doing something. I want to do it. I know that it is good for me, and I'm actually doing it. So that is a constantly evolving process because what I want to do keeps evolving, and so what I actually do should also match up or task up with this. And you might ask a question that is, if what I do want to do is the same for a long period of time, then I think you should strongly revisit the question again, as of are you progressing? Because the progress is that what I want to do is changing always. It's highly dynamic. So that's why this map is highly dynamic, and the process is never ending process. So you just keep on trying to establish what make yourself better. So that is the pursuit of excellence. I would state like that. So what is vital in this pursuit? I'm just going to establish the mere ideas that will help me proceed in this talk. So if I draw a two-dimensional map between two things, one is the mental capacity, a person's let's call intelligence on solving a particular problem or approaching a particular task. So that's the mental capacity as I would define. And then I have the second dimension, that is the time dimension, on how much time the person spends. So depending on this two different uh, parameters of a particular person, I would say I can classify this into four different quadrants, just like a graph. It's a graph actually. So the first graph is a person who doesn't have high mental capacity or not very intelligent person, and and this person uh, knows that the person is not very intelligent, and so doesn't is not willing to spend some more time in pursuing getting more experience or in pursuing excellence. So then you have the second set of people. They are the lazy people. So why do I call them lazy people? Is that so they have a very good mental capacity, but they do not put in the time to execute or apply their mental capacity. So that class of people I call as the lazy people. And then I have the smart people who know that they are not very well equipped, they're not ready for performing a particular task or to understand something, but still they are willing to put the effort in terms of time, put the hours it requires to understand a particular concept, and therefore that's why they are very smart. And then you have the very intelligent people who do have the idea of who have the mental capacity, but still they understand that using it in the right amount of time always makes the most importance. So I can divide depending on two different parameters: the ability to sit and spend time in a particular in pursuing excellence, and also the mental capacity that is required to pursue it. Depending on that, I have classified into four different types. So now, if we look at the uh, thing that separates the dimension that causes the separation between the person who is successful and the person who is not successful, is that is commonly misconceived as the mental capacity dimension. So whenever a person does well, whenever the person scores high marks or whatever the person's pursuit, maybe it is always a common comment that the person is highly intelligent. And a highly intelligent person scores high marks, but it is not actually true. Or the highly intelligent person scores the highest, uh, the is the most successful, but it is not true, because what is true is that the successful people are people who are able to spend the time, put in the time, have a control of their time, uh, and understand their level of capacity that they possess, and then try and improve it by putting in more effort with a particular amount of time. So that's why I have created two separations, and it is not the mental capacity that separates the successful people from the not so successful people. But it is the time dimension, the ability to focus on something for a particular amount of time. So if we keep on moving like this, let's ask another question. That is, okay, I have a particular challenge in front of me. Let it be a physical challenge or a mental challenge. So let's take a case of an examination. I want to crack a test exam, and I know that I'm not ready for it yet. So what I do is that, okay, I make some plans. So I say that I'll spend some 8 hours a day for studying this topic, and so I'll be able to clear the exam. So I become smart in that place. So because the first part is that I recognize that I'm not ready to face the challenge. I'm also willing to put in an amount of time that is way much than I am capable of putting, so that I can get a very good result at the end. So that is a smart person. So what? Okay, you have done it and you have cracked the exam. You have scored very good marks, or you have become something very successful. But then, when the next exam comes, what is your attitude now? So if you consider that, okay, I have performed very well in the previous exam. Okay, so so I think that is fine. So I can just I mean uh, shift that result over to here. Then it doesn't work like that, because during the first exam you were smart person, so you knew that you were not ready for the exam and you spend the time to prepare for it. But if you do not understand that, I mean, the previous result is something that is going to be carried out through the current situation, which you have one more test. And if you say that, okay, I have performed well in the previous examination, and why should I prepare now? Then you have shifted from being a smart person to a lazy person, because you're not willing to spend the time anymore. So why am I trying to stress on this two-dimensional map? Is that this map is highly dynamic, just like a snake and ladder. So you can become a smart person from a not intelligent person by putting in the time and effort. And if you're not consistent with that, then what happens is that you start going down as if a snake bit you in the snake and ladder game, and you end up being a lazy person. So that is why I have compared snake and ladder with this two-dimensional map, because it is extremely dynamic. So for each and every challenge, if you need to be smart, or if you need to be become very intelligent, then it is the time dimension that has a very important control over with your progress. Sorry. So with that, with this basic understanding of time and mental capacity, I can define a person like as if it is like an object, like a ball or some object. So for every object, we do have an equation of motion as of how this ball travels across time or space. So, if I consider a person, how does a person behave like a ball? I mean, if we are trying to define some parameters on how a person is going to behave, then there are two important parameters that are going to define a person. The first part is the mental capacity, which is the intelligence quotient or the IQ that is commonly known, which means that the ability to solve a particular problem. But then you have the second part of that defines the particular person, that is the emotional capacity or the emotional quotient, as it is called. So this is the person's ability to stick with the problem for a particular amount of time. So, so this is actually totally two different parts, and you can define a particular person, with these two parameters. So, so let's give a particular example of how this works. So let's say that for defining a mental capacity, use this example. So for every person on the everyday life, they are bombarded by a lot of data, and we train ourselves in separating the data that is useful for us, that is the information, and also we discard the data that is not useful for us as noise. And the more we become intelligent, what happens is that the more our ability to filter out the noise and information grows. So we become much more matured on how to handle the data that is surrounding us. So how does it work so the first part about dealing with data is the intelligence quotient. And the second part about dealing with the emotions is called as the emotional quotient. So how does it work is that, so let's say that we have a stretch of time, a given amount of time, and the emotional quotient is the ability to convert a particular piece of time into a benefit or into a regret. So let's say that you have some 15 to 20 minutes time, and the emotional quotient is the ability to convert make use of that 15-minute or 20 minutes into something that benefits you in the future, or else is that 15 to 20 minutes going to cost the decisions you make in that time frame going to cause you regrets. So so how does it all fall into place is that let's take a car, and let's assume that the engine part, the capacity of the engine as the IQ. So let's say that we have the top class engine in a particular model of a car, and it's so much highly powerful, and it is a novel it's a marvel of engineering, let's say like that. But still, if you're not able to understand how the accelerator, the brake, or the and the clutch work, we can't be I mean, despite having a highly powerful engine, we can't even move the car. And most importantly, even if we drive the car without knowing how to control it, then we will cause catastrophic ramifications from that. So, which means that it doesn't matter on how intelligent you are, but if you do not know how to control your time, it is really difficult for you to make progress. So, that is the basic understanding of this particular slide. So, in order to further, before going into further steps, I wish to ask my talk was focused on for students, I will go with an example of a student case, which is the most important thing is to face a lot of tests or challenges or learning learning challenges. So the first I wish to debunk a certain myths I would consider that is regarded that might stop a particular person from evolving or pursuing excellence. So the first of them is the misinterpretation of results. So what does results mean, or what does mark mean? It's not much of us have a very clear understanding of how things work, or let it be marks or results or whatever things it might be. So let's say that the first part of it is we always have a very bad uh, rule about uh, rule about our standing in a bunch of among a bunch of peers. Let's say that we have a classroom full of students, and let's say there are 50 students, uh, and there's a particular exam, and we are segregating, or we are making a distribution of the marks scored by a particular by the particular class. And we are always trying to be satisfied by being above average. Let's say that for a particular exam, the average mark is 3, and we scored 3.5 or something like that. We are satisfied with this. But that is something that is a high, it's a very bad landmine that we are standing on, because it's a very bad idea. Because statistics are something that will break down if there are only two different outcomes of a particular test or exam. Let's say that there are only right answers or wrong answers. So the nature of why we have a 3.5 max out of 5, or 2.5 out of 5 really actually breaks our or it misinterprets our understanding of marks. So if our standing, or if our marks or results, when they are divided into something, a binary standing like ones and zeros or right and wrongs, and if we are in the wrong phase, then it is something that we need to be worried about, that which means that we are not capable of solving the problem, or we're not really uh, pursuing the right way in solving that particular problem. So that's a red mark. So the first myth that should be debunked is that, or the first rule of the thumb that we need to follow is that you should never infer from the statistic, especially if you are part of the statistic. So what does it mean is that if I am part of the statistic, so if I'm saying that I am checking my standing within a within my class, and there are 50 other students in my class, and I'm I'm one among them. So what happens is that I'm I'm comparing myself with my peers. So if I scored 3.5, that means that I think that I'm above average, which means that I'm better than most of the class. But in the realistic, if I am part of the statistics, because by making myself aware that I'm above the average, is that I'm trying to infer my standing from the a statistic, which is really dangerous if you are part of the statistics. So that is something that should be marked for. If you want to improve, you should revisit this idea about how the statistic and how your mind is trying to infer from such a statistic. And that's the second part that is of very much of importance is that. So let's say that okay, I'm spending some I'm I'm spending some 2 hours for studying for a particular test, and I'm satisfied that I'm able to perform above average. Like I studied just for 2 hours, and I'm getting 60 marks, or 70, 60 or 65 marks out of it. So now I'm saying that okay, that's interesting because I didn't study much, or I didn't spend much amount of time, and still I'm able to get a decent mark, which is 60 or 70. But so which means that and if then we extrapolate our bad inference that okay, I have studied for 1 hour and I'm able to score 60, and if I'm able to study for some like 3 hours, then I'll be able to score 90% of the marks. So that is a common misinterpretation about marks, but that is actually not true, because marks are not a linear do not have a linear relationship with time. So you can't interpret as a linear. It can be having linear slope, but it is actually something very logarithmic, which means that so if I get 60% of marks, if I spend 1 hour, then in order to get about 90% of marks, then I should spend magnitude of hours higher than that. Which means that if I want to get 75% of marks, I shouldn't spend 2 hours for it, but instead of that, 10 hours of it. So if I want to get almost 90%, then I should not spend 3 hours, but about uh, the next magnitude, which is almost 100 hours. So that's the major understanding. So marks are not at all linear in terms of effort. So there is always, so whenever you see this in a particular, you can see this in outcomes of multiple competitive exams or something like that. And you always see people saying that, okay, I have lost this exam just in 2 to 3 marks. And I was very close, but that is not the truth. Because the person who has cleared the exam was willing to put an order of magnitude of time and energy and effort in preparation when compared to you. And that might look very small in the marks scale, but in terms of effort scale, it is way much higher. So because it is a logarithmic scale. So you need to be very much aware of if you are preparing for, if you are wanting to be in the pursuit of excellence, then this is a very important interpretation that you can't compare marks linearly in terms of the effort. So then we have much more interesting idea is that, okay, so people always say to encourage their peers or their students that, okay, you have spent a little amount of time and energy, you're able to get 3 marks, and maybe if you put a little more effort, you can get 5 marks. So that's the difference. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm just trying to revisit the same argument that I made in the second misinterpretation. So here in this case, what I'm trying to explain is that how does, I mean, what makes the difference between the effort and the marks scored? So for example, let's say that I have this two-dimensional graph between how exactly you can answer to a particular question and how efficiently you can answer to a particular question. A person who is scoring 3 marks, an average person, how does the person write the answer is there? The person writes an answer that is not exact, that is not very exact. And so if you're not writing something that is very exact, then you are not very efficient. But on the other case, why does a person scoring 5 marks get the 5 marks? Is because the person is trying to be exact to the asked question, and and therefore the person needs to be highly efficient. So this is something like a delta function. I mean, like you can't have it's the area under the curve should be constant. So, so that is very important. So, what is the difference between a person who's scoring 5 marks and the 3 marks going to be different is that the person who's scoring 3 marks writes what he or she knows regarding the question, but a person who is scoring 5 marks is writing exactly to the question or question asked. So let's say that this red arrow is the question that is asked. So you have got to be extremely precise on how precise, extremely exact on answering the particular question within a given amount of words or amount of time. And therefore, in order to perform that, you will be having a higher degree of efficiency. And on the other hand, if you do not have that efficiency, or if you do not exactly understand the question, now what you're going to do is that you're going to have a very broad idea of how exactly your answer is going to be. And that is going to decrease your efficiency. And as this is a function whose area under the curve should be constant, because that is going to determine your energy. So you'll be having a broader curve for a person who's having 3 marks, and a person who is scored or who is done well, a very narrow curve with a high degree of efficiency and a high degree of exactness. So it's very important to notice that great potential doesn't mean anything unless you put the effort. So now we have understood the significance of emotional quotient or emotions. how they play, and how we can control them at a particular amount of time. So why are we discussing multiple times about emotions and time? Is that your time is emotions, because we are bombarded with decisions every waking or every conscious minute, which means that you got to make decisions multiple times maybe in a particular stretch of 10 to 15 minutes or even 5 minutes. So what determines your decision making or your power to make good decisions is that your control over your emotions, because your emotions are what is going to regulate your time. So if you're in a bad mood, that is going to affect your decision making. That is going to end up affecting what you're going to do with your particular amount of time. So that is why it is very important to face or discuss about habits. So what are habits? Is that, let's say that I wake up at a particular time. Uh, I then just lie down in the bed. I'm just very reluctant to get up and do my work. So then I get up after a particular amount of time, and then I regret that, okay, oh, I should have woken a little bit earlier, maybe half an hour before, so that I could have done a particular task that I wanted to do, or I should have done today. So these are the certain patterns that let's say that we go through every day. So we try to wake up at a particular hour, then we snooze the alarm, then we wake up after like 15 to 20 minutes, and then we regret uh, waking up a little bit late in the first place. So, so what happens is that can we change this track or this pattern of waking up, getting up late, snoozing the alarm, and then regretting that we didn't wake up a little bit earlier? Is that it is really difficult to change it, because every part, starting from uh, the snoozing of the alarm, when the alarm hits, you snooze off, that has become a pattern. And then you wake up after some time, that has become a pattern. And then you understand that because of you have woken up late, you are going to suffer in some way during that day. And that has become a pattern. The feeling of regret of not waking is going to become a pattern. So the entire behavior is coded as patterns, and these patterns are called as habits. So this is what is going to define our time in what we are going to do every day. And that is why it is your habits are a marker of your emotional quotient. So habits, as I discussed just before, it is a pattern of decisions repeated every day. So in order to have very good habits, you got to understand how emotions or what we are going to do or what is going to drive us work really. So I think I have emphasized on how important habits are. And in order to control our habits, we should understand what controls our habits. So, it is something like an equilibrium. So, the first thing that we need to understand is that our habits are strongly biased by space and time. So, for example, let's say that a student is in classroom, and the teacher teaches something, and the student is interested in the subject, and the student wants to learn it, and the student wants to wake up early next morning and start studying for this particular topic because it is interesting. And the student now what happens is that the student leaves class, goes home, and does all the work, and wants to wake up the next morning. But on the during the next morning, when the alarm hits, the person feels it I mean, the student feels it extremely difficult to wake up. So why is it happening in such a in such a pattern? So why a student who was interested in learning when the person was in class didn't feel the same drive of learning when the person is in bed? Is because in our because the decision to study is dependent on our environment. An environment like classroom is favored to study because it has the starting from the push of the student sitting upright and listening to the class. We have all the conditions that are favorable or to promote learning. But in the when we are in bed, what happens is that our posture is not right. It is not favorable to focus. And also what happens is that we are surrounded by very comfy bed, and we feel sleepy and all. So what happens is that our decision in the bed is going to favor sleeping, and our decision in the classroom is going to favor learning, because these are the conditions that are favored by the space that we are in. So we need to understand that our habits are strongly biased by the space and time. And there is a time element to it, and I do not want to go into details in this talk. And maybe if there is time, then I think I can go on to discuss with it later. So so the so the one thing that, so how are we going to break this pattern is, because this understanding this pattern is really it's very vital, I would say, because let's say that you are you want to see what you have done. Let's say that you are in a particular state. Maybe you are in a particular course, or you're in a particular job now. And let's revisit the past 5 years that we have crossed across, and thought about the decisions that we have made during each and every day, or every waking minute of that 5 years. And if we look at it, then we would understand. And if you feel that you haven't made any progress in the past 5 years, then what is happening is that your space is extremely biasing you, which means that I wish to focus on one important thing, is that our memory is extremely biased. A simple example of this is that, let me say that you're cooking something, and you're cooking some vegetables, and things like that, and suddenly you remember that you need some carrots, or some vegetables. Yeah. And what you do is that you move from the kitchen, and you just go to the place where your refrigerator is to pick some carrots. And when you open your refrigerator, what happens is that you just get recalibrated, and you start thinking like, what was, I mean, why did I open the refrigerator, or what do I want now? Okay, that is the recalibration. So whenever you change from space A to space B, from kitchen to your refrigerator, what happens is that your brain gets recalibrated. So this also happens in many occasions that we mightn't even observe. So let's say that you wanted to call someone, and that is very important. But what you have made a decision to call that person, but once you have opened your mobile phone, you didn't you forget why you opened it, and you start scrolling on things that you usually scroll. Maybe it might be WhatsApp, or some other media platform, or something like else. And after some time, when we lose track of what is happening, then we realize, okay, oh, I just took my phone to make a call to this person. Yeah, which is extremely interesting, which is extremely curious behavior of our brains, but it is also extremely deadly, or it's extremely a dangerous phenomenon, which means that if we are stuck in a particular time loop, like like making a decision and then forgetting it, as we go on through multiple spaces, then we forget any long-term decisions that we make in this time scale. So our long-term goal, maybe what I should be in 5 years, is made up of multiple short-term goals, which is made up of multiple micro decisions, which we are making every waking minute, or every waking instance that we do. It might be 10 minutes. So each and every smaller local decisions that we make can affect us in a global level, like in a scale of 5 years or 10 years. So it is very important to understand this impact of the space and time, or what we expose to, has on our decisions. So the only way, uh, so so why am I saying is, this is that this is something like the RAM and the SSD, or the hard disk we have. So so our decisions are always made by the RAM, because that is what is uh, highly active and highly vibrant in our heads. So we do have in our heads, we do have a RAM, and we just have a RAM, which is on the fly decision making, which is really highly dynamic in nature. But what we need is a long term storage device. And our mind is not equipped with the long-term storage device. It is really to have, it's really difficult to follow up some decisions to the long term, like becoming excellent in a particular topic, or becoming something that becoming some doing something big. So what is the storage device that we human beings are capable of, that no other animal is able to do, is that we can get access to a storage device, and that is a pen and paper. So you can give your thoughts, put them into a pen and paper, and make them into a long-term storage device. So whenever we do have some questions or some queries as to what am I doing, we can check back into the long-term storage device and uh, uh, make our corrections, or understand ourselves and make improvements, make and evolve as a person. So that is the major difference that I would say that differs us from animals, and separates, makes us much more human beings. So let's say that a cat or a dog is going to be a cat or a dog throughout its entire life, because it can't so it is going to act on its programmed behavioral set from the previous generation, and it is going to be transmitted to the next thing. So unless until it learns to evolve, depending on the environmental stress factors, it is going to be remaining as a cat. But what as a person we can have is that within a single generation, within a single person, if I know that I'm doing something wrong, I can go back, I can write up, look, and start improving myself. So I can become maybe from a cat to a dog thing. So it's something like a tremendous transformation that you can get by accessing yourself into a long-term memory.